Hey, Larry Elder here. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt and KHNC.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 6:05 in the morning. This is the Bucky Dillon Show, our morning show, a collaborative between myself and the freedom-loving, free-thinking, free-spirited, free speech advocating, patriot community in Northern Colorado, and those who tune in worldwide on the KHNC website for the radio broadcast, 1360khnc.com, or tune in on the live stream on the Liberty Revolt YouTube page, youtube.com/Liberty Revolt. But today, you can also find the live stream on my esteemed co-patriots Facebook page. I have with me today a great friend of mine who has been a friend of mine since I got into the independent libertarian media environment, and she herself has been podcasting and live streaming like a crazy person. I cannot believe how much content you put out. Suni, will you please introduce yourself to the audience and let people know where they can find this live stream on your social media page?
Yes. So I go by Suni the middle child, and people are like, where did that come from? I'm caught in between two generations, right? I am the older generation to the younger crowd, but I'm also the younger generation to the older crowd. So I'm stuck in the middle, but I feel like I get twice the wisdom. And if you want to find my podcast, you can find the live streams that I do. I pre-record it, put it on YouTube. You can look up my YouTube hot mic. You'll see a nice red logo with the mic on it. And if you want to follow my Facebook page, just look up Blanks Suni and you will see me. And that's pretty much it. I'm trying to, oh, you know what? Let me not forget this. I definitely co-partnered with one of my best friends. His name is Blake. And we started a news organization called Primetime Patriots. Pretty sure people have heard of it. It's all over the place. We have like a 3 million reach on Facebook. We have almost 100K subscribers on our Facebook. You can also find us on YouTube. You type in Primetime Patriots. You can get all the news updates. And I go on there and do my thing. It's a great thing that we're starting. People are looking for the truth, and people don't want to be fed BS anymore. So if you want to check us out, go over to Primetime Patriots on Facebook and YouTube, and you'll see us.
That's really cool. What we need is for people to get active. I've been saying for a while now that this idea that we're going to let cancel culture and the vicious bullying of the left silence us is not a good strategy, because the truth is, if we're afraid to speak publicly, we might as well fold up the flag, throw it on the ground, and stomp all over it, because it's done. You are not going to change the narrative in this country by shutting up and putting your head down.
That's true. It's time for everybody to stand up and have a voice. We sat silent for too long and kind of been in somewhat of like autopilot mode. And we've just watched all these things happen. But with Primetime Patriots, shout out to Kaylee and Morgan as well. We're shining the light. There's no more hiding. We're going to show up at the primaries. We're going to be paying attention to the candidates locally and at a state level. And we'll work our way up to the federal thing.
Right. I've been saying for a while that what the left does very well is messaging and activism. And that's why instead of studying our founding documents in American history, which they clearly have not, they have put all their energy into conquering the institutions of political and cultural media. They've conquered the education system. They've conquered Hollywood. They've conquered the music industry. They run Netflix. They run big tech. They run so many of the cultural entities that drive our narratives. And most people who don't pay attention to politics That's where they're absorbing it, through osmosis, through the ether in the air around them, because they're hearing snippets of the social justice progressive left narrative in all of their cultural content.
It's true. We've said that on the show. Like we're losing the culture war. If we could tap into the culture war and the culture aspect of it, we'd be able to compete. Honestly, I feel like Trump did that. He took on mainstream media, and that opened up a whole new arena for us.
Right.
That really gave us.
It really facilitated the rise of independent media like yourself and like me. And without the work that Trump has done, it could be, the point of no return. Hopefully it's not the point of no return right now. And, part of why I disagreed with what happened at the Capitol is just because the optics of it gave the left a club to beat us with. And clearly they're doing it. They're probably going to do it anyways, but now they could use these optics, use their messaging tools, which is the entire big tech establishment. And for so long, they've been saying, "Oh, we're against monopolies. We want to give the power back to the people." Right? They don't care about that. That's just a narrative they use to win over naive independents, right? Naive young people. As soon as they have a monopoly on something, which is their goal, right? They believe in the force of government to correct historical, social, and economic injustices, as they say. They're not against guns, right? Mm-hmm. All of their anti-gun talk, they don't mean a word of it, because every law and regulation they pass is enforced by the gun of government, right? Try not paying your taxes. What's going to happen? A federal agent is going to send a letter to you saying you got to pay your taxes. And if you still refuse, they're going to show up at your doorstep. And if you resist, they're going to point a gun at you. They are not anti-gun. They're very pro-gun. They're just pro them having a monopoly on guns. That's the thing. They want a monopoly in every arena of your life, while standing out and saying, we're against corporate oligarchies. We're against monopolies. We're for the little guy. They're not for the little guy. In no way. There's an abundant hypocrisy in the left.
Oh my God. I do what's called liberal logic episodes. And I point out the abundance, the hypocrisy, the hypocritical abundance of the left, right? We can even use the Capitol. That is number one.
Hello, everybody. This is Cole from Liberty Revolt Media, and I'm here to ask for your help. My friend Bucky Dillon and I run a conservative website called LibertyRevoltMedia.com, and we haven't even been censored yet. Imagine a world where the president's Twitter account can be taken down. Amazon, Google, and Apple can work together to get rid of the conservative speaking platform, Parler. And many, many websites can get rid of all the ideas they have that don't agree with the liberal establishment. As you can imagine, we were absolutely appalled to learn that our website has not yet been censored. After all, we say inflammatory things about Democrats, police, COVID-19, climate change, and we don't even toe the party line for the left wing. This is obviously a problem in today's new media climate, so we are asking for your help, for allowing LibertyRevoltMedia.com to be the next censored social media platform. Ladies and gentlemen, it's obvious that our audience and reach isn't big enough right now for us to get scrubbed from the internet, and this is a problem. Because you only know you're a real conservative who's speaking out against things that obviously matter when your presence gets scrubbed from the internet. You're no longer allowed to use your credit card. You probably won't be allowed to have a passport after much longer. And we want to be on the inside of the new wave of not being able to do anything at all without agreeing with the Democrats. So please, help to push our inflammatory material at www.libertyrevoltmedia.com before it's gone. Because with your help, we too can be censored by big tech and the corporate overlords. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. LibertyRevoltMedia.com. Before it's gone.
The Bucky Dillon Show is a Liberty Revolt Media production. www.libertyrevoltmedia.com.
Well, Suni, speaking of abundant hypocrisy, people have been trying to proclaim that Joe Biden is progressive. Now, this comes as a shock and a surprise to me, considering which presidential candidate was it that Wall Street backed to the tune of millions?
Was that not Obama?
Well, yeah, but I'm talking this recent one. So they were trying to make the case that Trump was, he was in the pocket of Wall Street, and everything he was doing was to increase the corporate monopolies and the corporate greed and grow the oligarchy, right? So Wall Street, as of like October, had spent over $74 million backing Joe Biden's run for president. And that's not all. I mean, we're talking all of these mega monopoly corporations that the left would, if they followed their values, be railing out against. But of course, those values are merely tools that they use to club people with. Big tech, Alphabet, AT&T. I mean, so many of the largest and most powerful companies all rallied behind Joe Biden. Wired found that employees, now this is just employees, big tech staffers alone, gave nearly $5 million to Biden and less than $250,000 to Trump. They found that something like 95% of contributions by employees of 6 big tech firms have gone to Biden. Employees at Alphabet are Biden's biggest financial brokers in Silicon Valley, having donated just shy of $1.8 million, more than 1/3 of the money raised from employees of the other 6 companies. Media Research Center Vice President Dan Gaynor, who oversees the conservative watchdog's Tech Watch initiative, says that the analysis is evidence that these wildly influential companies favor Democrats. Biden also took more money from big tech than any candidate in American history, according to The Spectator. Moreover, donations by Democrats to the Democrats by Bay Area residents rose from $163 million in 2016 to $199 million in 2020. The people who gave this money to Biden are also the ones making decisions on content and who gets silenced and censored. Biden enjoyed a constant flow of campaign donations last year from the largest corporations in the United States and is getting a boost from corporate America for his upcoming inauguration. A list of donors for Biden's inaugural committee reveals that tech conglomerates such as Google, Microsoft, and Qualcomm, as well as multinational telecommunication corporations such as Verizon and AT&T and Comcast, are donating over $200 million to the committee. The exact amount donors does not have to be disclosed for 90 days. Also on the donors list is Boeing, one of the federal government's most lucrative military contractors, which has recently been embroiled in a scandal following the crash and grounding of its 737 MAX fleet. The health insurance company Anthem Incorporated is on the donors list, as well as Massimo Corporation, which manufactures medical devices. So do you think that Joe Biden is really going to stick it to these people when they've given him his victory?
Absolutely not. Joe is a puppet. Joe is being controlled. Joe has no say-so in his entire presidency. He's taking orders, period. He's not going to do any. Honestly, if I'm being real, I think it's going to be business as usual. I don't think there's going to be any extravagant or crazy changes that he comes in and does, I think big tech will get bigger, government will get bigger, but Joe's gonna do what Joe does, and he even said it in one of his interviews. He's like, I'm not doing nothing that goes against the Constitution. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna write executive orders that undo everything Trump did. He said it himself.
His entire campaign. Well, I mean, so I contest that Joe Biden is the luckiest political candidate in American history. I mean, he didn't have to do a thing, and every powerful, influential establishment figure came out of the woodwork to drag his limp body across. I mean, they say to run towards the activist wing of your party in the primaries, run to the moderates during the general. And although Joe Biden couldn't run a campaign, let alone physically run at all, fortunately for him, the news media and the DNC, but I repeat myself, worked overtime to drag his tired body across the finish line. He was able to sleep in his basement, and occasionally a gushing so-called journalist would arrive with a list of predetermined questions with predetermined answers specifically designed to accomplish the optics and narrative that the political establishment and their media operatives had agreed upon. Old Slow Joe would literally just on whatever his drug of choice is and stumble and bumble through a 10-minute interview, and as long as he didn't physically collapse, it would be celebrated as a success.
Man, nobody voted for Joe. Let's just be real, okay? He was set up to win, period. Nobody voted for him. He didn't campaign like you just said. What? I don't even know what he said during his campaign. I don't even know what he ran on. I have no clue.
We need a successful strategy to mobilize individual leg hair.
I'm still trying to figure out what his policies are.
I will say, though, it is a great time to be in media. I mean, I was having a blast talking about Trump and Trump just trolling the left nonstop. That was a blast. But now we get to continue that, and there will be no shortage of material to troll. So this is a great time to become a late night woke comedian and just dump on the powers that be every day, because we're gonna have every time they put a camera in front of Joe Biden's face, it's comedic material.
I don't know, we're not allowed to say certain things, so we might get shut down. You never know. Well, it might turn into a situation where if you make fun of them, you get shut down.
Here at KHNC, we are starting a free speech comedy venue right here in the lobby. And so, hey, if you're a comedian or if you know a comedian in the northern Colorado area who's looking for an eager audience, what's going to set us apart from other comedy venues in the area is that we are a 10,000 watt radio station with all of the infrastructure in place to self-promote these events and even live stream the comedy acts, given that they do not break the FCC rules. But we highly encourage them to do, and we don't live stream them. We are viciously free speech. Now, obviously, we have certain moral boundaries that we don't want people crossing. We want to foster a healthy place, but F the government and F the FCC and F woke culture. So if you are a comedian or know a comedian and you want to come down and be a part of our community and get in front of our people, and if you do have a skit that's funny and doesn't break FCC rules, we'll gladly broadcast it on the radio. So come on down. You can get a hold of me at buckydillon@khnc.net or at libertyrevoltmedia@gmail.com. So
nice.
Joe Biden, with the power of the entire political, media, and corporate establishment, managed to be seen progressive enough to not lose the radical Democratic base, and yet simultaneously a moderate who wouldn't shake things up and run a back to normalcy campaign, while also being backed and in the pocket of all of the oligarchic monopolies that we have all been railing against. He's in their pocket. They own him. They own his campaign. They own his administration. It's not just that they donated to him. He hired them. Jessica Hurst, who was the director for Facebook's regulatory team, will serve as White House staff director. Emily Horn, who was head of global policy communications for Twitter, will be the director of press and spokesperson for the National Security Council, according to the Biden-Harris transition website. David Ricordon, a former developer at Facebook, will serve as director of technology for the Office and Administration. Austin Lin, a former program manager at Facebook, will serve as Ricordon's deputy. Amazon, Apple, and Google executives will also hold positions in the incoming Biden administration. So tell me again how Biden is progressive and against corporate monopolies.
He's not. He said that to draw you guys in and get the vote. And he did, because everybody falls for it every 4 years. But man, this cabinet and his entire cabinet pick, this is like, in my opinion, communism on steroids. It's nuts.
I know. He put Bernie Sanders as the chairman of the budget committee. Budget. Bernie Sanders has never balanced a budget at any point in his life ever. I don't think Bernie Sanders understands what a budget is.
I hope this is how I feel. I hope everyone goes after Bernie like they went after Ben Carson, like they went after what is her name? She's over the school. Her name just dropped out of my mind. All of Trump's picks for his cabinet, everybody was like, "Oh my God, how do you pick that person? Oh, this person can't do that." I'm interested to see what people say about Biden's cabinet picks, if they say anything at all.
I know we are so screwed, people. We are so look here, you pieces of crap in the government. I have never seen more mentally ill, degenerate people wanting to just gang rape this republic than the Biden administration. This is a tragedy.
It is, man. It's funny because we laugh at our pain, but man, the direction that this country is headed in is absolutely sad. I'm not even going to blame the voters, because voters didn't pick this president at all. They just didn't.
So, I wasn't there. You weren't there. We have a legal process. We went through the legal process. And unfortunately, it looks as though Joe Biden will be the president. But do you think for a second that there wasn't some shenanigans going on in this electoral process?
No. I covered the election. We did a whole huge show on it. And I watched some things occur. For sure. And I've looked at the documents. Like, I paid attention to this more than I probably should have, like obsessing over this entire thing. There was a lot of shenanigans that went on in the story. I'll leave it there.
I thought Joe Biden's whole thing was no more malarkey. Come on, man.
Unless it helps him win an election, he's cool with it.
Yeah, I feel like there was an ample amount of malarkey. So for those who don't know, here on this station, we have a lot of enthusiastically curious speculators of the political landscape. I have one fellow show host who was doing a really interesting show the other day where he basically said, do you remember the AT&T bombing? He basically drew all the lines connecting the Dominion servers to the AT&T storage files at that building and tried to say that it was the CIA was engaged in this because it's all part of some deep state conspiracy. I can't speak on that. That's what they said. It's not what I said. But I think it's interesting to explore. You're listening to KHNC.
Hi, this is Taylor Grant. I'm the owner of Grant Performance Gym here in Loveland, Colorado. I'm located at 1339 South Garfield Avenue, right next to the Furniture and Decor store. I'm a longtime competing strongman, and I'm a personal trainer with the National Academy of Sports Medicine. At my gym, we offer a lot of things, some of which are strongman, powerlifting. I do in-person sessions. I do monthly pricing for people as well. I even offer just programs if that's what you're looking for. If you'd like to get a hold of me, my phone number is 970-402-1330, and my email is grant, Grant, performance1 at gmail. Once again, that's Grant, Grant, performance1 at gmail.
If you've been following the news cycle like me, you're probably a little more anxious and not sleeping quite as well as you could be. I get you. That's why I use the products from our trusted friends at 420 Friendlies. 420 Friendlies offers great deals on 100% locally made glass clothing and smoking accessories. I have been loving the mental and physical health benefits of their extensive line of CBD products, including sodas, candies, lotions, salves, capsules, and more. My personal favorites are the sodas. I love CBD lemonades and colas, and I can tell you from first-hand experience, nothing works better to relieve pain and facilitate a healing sunburn than a batch of 420 Friendly's CBD salve. If you have headaches, insomnia, joint pain, anxiety, CBD products from 420 Friendlies are truly incredible, and so are the staff. I've been shopping and doing business with them for years. I trust them and enjoy them. They're experienced and knowledgeable, and that's why I shop exclusively at 420 Friendlies for all my smoking, vaping, and organic alternative needs. Again, they are located at 6628 West 10th Street in Greeley, just east of the King Supers. Find them online at 420 Friendlies in Greeley or call them at 970-451-5004. That's 970-451-5004. You can trust my friends at 420 Friendlies in Greeley, Northern Colorado's premier head shop. Tell them that Bucky Dillon sent you.
Great minds think alike. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt. Join me, Larry Elder, today at 5 on 1360 KHNC. Now back to Bucky Dillon.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the Bucky Dillon Show, a collaborative between myself, my wonderful co-patriots who occasionally join me, and the freedom-loving, free-thinking, free speech advocating patriot communities in Northern Colorado and all around the world tuning in on the YouTube live stream and the radio broadcast. We're speaking about the so-called progressivism of Joe Biden. Now, you know what is very, very anti-progressive and thus Joe Biden tried to be very quiet about? Putting Wall Street titan Goldman Sachs into his administration without public announcements that accompanied the president-elect's cabinet picks and original members of the transition. Team Biden has added to its agency review groups Monica Meyer, Vice President for Cyber Threat Intelligence at Goldman Sachs, Eric Goldstein, an 18-year Goldman Sachs veteran, and Josh Zoffer, a former engagement manager at McKinsey, who now works at private equity firm Cove Hill Partners. So, does that sound like someone who's going to take on Wall Street, someone who's going to take on the corruption of our monetary system and the banking cartel? Or does that sound like someone who lied to their constituency to get into office and lied about being the the guy who is going to usher in the economic justice and post-racial utopia that the progressives dream about?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know. I don't know what people expected. I honestly, man, it like boggles my mind. I wonder if people actually thought he was gonna come into office and do something great, or he was
I
gonna
wonder
run
if
off of
people
something and be
actually
honest.
thought at all.
Clearly not. This is my opinion. People chose culture over logic in this election. A lot of people did. Culture won. It's unfortunate.
Well, it's a good thing that we have patriots such as yourself and your partners in primetime patriots out here fighting the culture war. I really appreciate it. And I think we need more people to get engaged. One thing, I really appreciate you coming on the show, because one thing I've been wanting to do is, one thing that I've noticed is conservatives tend to be very competitive, whereas the left really likes to cooperate and community organize, right? So you wonder why your school is teaching social justice, anti-American nonsense. Well, have you ever considered that it's because the libertarians aren't showing up to the diversity and inclusivity staff meetings, and the social justice warriors are? If a single libertarian showed up and just said, you know, this sounds like a bunch of racist bullcrap, it would make a huge difference. But you know, the activism on the left is outworking the activism on the right, and it's thanks to patriots like yourself that hopefully we can get the word out and spur a little action. Now, I'm not talking about storming the Capitol building. I'm talking about community organizing and getting the message out and establishing friendships and relationships with people in positions to make a difference through positive optics. And I really appreciate you coming on, because like I said, I feel like the conservatives and the libertarians, they're very competitive and they don't like to cooperate with each other. They feel like they're competing with each other. They get angry when they see another conservative doing well, instead of saying, hey, let's combine our audience and let's combine our knowledge and our efforts and try to make try to increase our communal capacity to influence change in this country. So I hope that you will come hang out again on my show, and that I can come visit you on your show, and we can continue this combining of our powers to try to, you know what we're kind of like? We're kind of like the Power Rangers when they assemble into the like.
You went there. Oh my god. Nah, you're right. You're right, man. Divided, we're weak. But once we start talking to each other and we start organizing with each other, it really doesn't matter what our political differences are. It doesn't matter. We all have the ultimate goal is to preserve American culture. For me, it is, because America's great. There's so many great things about it. That's why so many people want to come to America, for the opportunities, for the chance to achieve that American dream. But the American dream comes with hard work. I work with anybody who I see has the work ethic. I'm not going to work with you if you're just like, hey, come hop on my podcast, and I see you're not really doing any work. We are competitive. And I actually made another libertarian friend. His name is Casey. I call him Devil's Advocate because he's hilarious. He feels like, I'm not conservative, but maybe I'm not too libertarian either, but he's libertarian. So I think these moments where we do come together make us a force to reckon with. Now, we need people from the left to come on over and see, wow, these people just want the best for everybody, because that's really what it's about. So we have to come together because we're stronger together.
Right now, I've been saying for a while, it's almost become like my freaking catchphrase. We need progressive thinkers, right?
Yeah.
we need progressive thinkers pointing out disparities and discriminations. And then we also need conservative thinkers digging their heels in and making sure that we're not throwing away all of our traditions and all of the great things that all of the great institutions and ideas that brought us to this point that we take for granted so often. And we need libertarians pointing out that both sides have an equal level of corruption and play a role in this divisiveness. But the truth is, I don't hold my views to be sacrosanct, right? I understand that broadly. I believe that lower taxes and deregulating businesses is good for spurring the economy and providing jobs, and that a rising tide lifts all boats. But I also understand that inequality can become too big of an issue. And like I said earlier, even if it's not the biggest issue in reality, if it's perceived as an issue, it's socially destabilizing. So there is a legitimate role to have that conversation. And what I think is most dangerous, and this is I think the biggest problem facing a lot of troubled American communities and states like California, is a lack of political accountability. Because if you have a political monopoly in an area and all you have to do is put a D next to your name in order to win the election, then you're not really accountable to your people. You don't have to earn their support, right? I believe in breaking up the political monopolies in the states and turning every state into a swing state so that our politicians actually have to work for us, and the best ideas from each side can get a grasp, can get a foothold in the country.
Facts. That's facts, man.
You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show on 1360 KHNC. I hope our viewers hang around.
Chinese state-run media is celebrating the apparent success of Joe Biden and the mainstream media. They understand that the mainstream media does not act in the best interest of our country, but instead as the communications branch of the Democratic Party. Break free from the left's domination of media by joining us at libertyrevoltmedia.com.
Great minds think alike. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt. Join me, Larry Elder, today at 5 on 1360 KHNC. Now back to Bucky Dillon.
I want to let you guys know on some of the important events that happened on this day in history. January 14th, 1526, Charles V and Francis I signed the Treaty of Madrid, forcing Francis to give up claims to Burgundy, Italy, and Flanders. In 1641, East Indian Company conquers city of Malacca, 7,000 killed. In 1724, Spanish King Philip V abdicates the throne. In 1761, Third Battle of Panipat. In one of the largest battles of the century, the mostly Muslim Afghani Durrani Empire defeats the mostly Hindu Maratha Empire in northern India. An estimated 60 to 70,000 were killed in the fighting, and about 40,000 Maratha prisoners massacred afterwards. In 1784, the U.S. Congress of the Confederation ratifies the Treaty of Paris, signed September 3rd, 1783, officially ending the Revolutionary War. On this day, we ended the Revolutionary War. We beat Great Britain, the largest empire to ever exist. Now, that does kind of give me hope, right? It's not like America hasn't faced massive challenges in the past. Back in 1776, 13 scrawny American colonies took on the world's most powerful empire and won.
Do you feel like this is our 1776 moment?
It could. I feel like there's a difference, though. In 1776, the entire American population had the will to defend America. It feels like half of Americans do not have the will to defend our country.
I agree with you. 100%.
Now
I
I
want
think
this to be that moment. Oh.
right. I think if we start getting a foothold, because here's the thing. Chinese state-run media is celebrating the apparent success of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. They understand that our mainstream media does not act in the best interest of our country, but instead as the communications branch of the Democratic Party. And therefore, the media wasn't covering what was going on in the world. They were covering how evil and racist Trump is, right? They weren't telling you what was going on around the world. I think if people understood that there are dedicated enemies of our country who are looking to get you out of their way permanently, and that's putting it nicely, out there, and that we need to maintain a strong economy and a strong military in order to stand up to that. I mean, just the other day, the Chinese military officials were bragging that they have now introduced a device into the People's Liberation Army that is basically a small explosive in their helmets, and that superior officers can now, at the press of a button, kill their own soldiers, and this will be used to basically, they will know that if they don't follow the orders of the Chinese Communist Party, their own military officials can hit the self-destruct button and blow their skull up. Right? They basically have turned their entire military into hostages. Now, if that sounds like a dystopian nightmare, that's because it is. Right? For those who don't know, China graduates more engineers a year than the United States has engineers. 50% of the students in our high-end universities are Chinese nationals who come here and get master's degrees and doctorates in the STEM fields and then go back to China and compete against us. Okay, they outnumber us 5-1. Their economy is about the same size, growing 20 times the pace of ours, right? They are the only industrialized country that in 2020 grew their economy. They're pumping out Warcraft battleships at a rate that's like 50 times any other country. They are dedicated to conquering the world. Because here's the thing. The way China's government is set up, they either they censor their people, they control their people through a high-tech surveillance state and an electronic currency that the government controls, and they don't let anyone get out of line, right? They can't continue to exist without exporting that system and making it globally dominant, because their people will start to catch on that the rest of the world has free speech and they want a part of it too, right? So China's government really has no choice but to conquer. The United States is 250 years old. It's a successful nation state. The Chinese Empire is 5,000 years old. Okay, and they don't have the same. They're looking at us and they're laughing because they are fully confident that they are overtaking the United States. And when they do, they're going to put the boot down and make it so that we never rise again. If you care about liberal values, if you care about progressivism, if you care about environmental justice, social justice, you need to take a look at the dedicated enemies to those. And it is not your fellow countrymen in America. It is tyrannical, authoritarian forces around the world that want you gone and out of their way. Now, hopefully, if we can get the message out, it will unite people here to let them know what's really going on.
Yeah, and it should also make people wonder why Joe Biden has completely written them off. Though don't worry about China. There's nothing wrong with China. China's nothing. They're not going to do anything to the U.S. Dude, what?
And I'm not saying that I hate China. Obviously, I don't hate China. Half my life is in China. I'm married to a Chinese woman. I love the Chinese culture. I love the Chinese people. But America first is the best way of preserving liberal freedoms worldwide. And we have to take it seriously. You're listening to KHNC.
What's up, everyone? This is Cole from the Liberty Revolt. We're here in Miami, Florida, flying out to Bogota, Colombia for a little bit of investigative journalism work. Should be interesting to see how the economy fares in the middle of COVID. And keep in mind that Colombia is not doing any more lockdowns and it's letting travelers in. So we're going to see the differences between a place like this and a place like Colombia. Then again, Florida is not doing any lockdowns either, hence the shields.
What's funny about this, guys, is I said that Colombia is not doing any more lockdowns because that's what the vice president said. But actually, this is my view driving in from the airport. And you can see that no one's on the street because they locked down at 8 p.m. There is nobody there.
Here in Bogota, Colombia, walking around, and you can see that everyone's got a mask on. When you walk into the stores here, they make you take hand sanitizer that you don't have to touch. They got temperatures, they got people with pretty much hazmat suits walking around, so they're here. No wonder we're so screwed up in the US. It really takes you going to another country and checking this out to see how things are. So here we are, we're gonna keep checking out Bogota. So here you can see they have the DAR system, Detecto, Aíslo, Reporto, and they actually have a system. That's the difference between us in the US, is we don't even have a system. When we got tested for COVID, it was straight up difficult to figure out how to get it done. And with so many cases positive and not that many people taking tests, you can only imagine how much there really is.
Hey everyone, please stay tuned for more content from the Liberty Revolt Colombia. I'm doing this as an investigative journalism trip. If you'd like to support us, please consider supporting us on our website, because this trip is totally for investigative purposes to see the differences between the US and South America right now. So thank you so much for tuning in, and please stay tuned for more updates from the Liberty Revolt Colombia.
欢迎收听 KHNC 广播电台 Bucky Dillon 早安秀，大家的早安广播，谢谢。
Now we have a comment on the YouTube live stream. Marcus says, sounds like how the continent of North America was conquered. War, rape, murder, theft, deception. Don't block me. Liberal freedom of speech, right? Smirk. Yeah, those things happen. But you know what? That is not something that's unique to the United States. Guess what? There's 27 million slaves in the world today, primarily in Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. And we don't know how many in the Uyghur concentration camps in China. And let's be honest. Do you think that there wasn't slavery and genocide and conquering going on in the Americas before the Europeans got here? That is a human universal. The word slave comes from Slav, as in Slavic, because the most notorious slaves in the world were European slaves held by the Muslim Ottoman Empire. And this was going on. The entire Mayan and Aztec way of life was going around and conquering Latin American tribes and then bringing them back and sacrificing them, ripping their hearts out, scalping them for their gods, right? The entire Cherokee way of life was traveling around the Great Plains. They weren't farmers, okay? They were traveling around the Great Plains and conquering and enslaving other Native American groups long before anyone got here. In fact, the first immigrants to the North American continent came from Russia, and then immigrants from Asia came over here and conquered and destroyed them. Not to mention 95% of all of the Native American deaths on the North American continent were because of germs. It was not in any way intentional, right? Germs. It was diseases that were brought from Europe, in the same way that diseases were brought to Europe from Asia and all other parts of the world. The fact that human beings in the past conquered and abused each other is not a unique sin of the United States. What makes the United States and the West unique is that they pioneered the liberation of oppressed people, right? Great Britain first it was white Christian men in Britain that first raised the notion that all men were made in the image of God, and therefore slavery was a sin, and abolished slavery in British colonies. In the British mainland, but not in British colonies. And then it was the United States that one upped them and said that all men are created equal, and therefore slavery is a sin. And we didn't live up to it, but all of the founding fathers actively wrote down that they hoped it would one day be abolished. They even tried sending slaves back to Africa, where the slave trade was still going on and continued going on until America and Britain went in there and forcibly ended it. It was going on before. It's not like they hopped off the boat and chased people down, right? And I'm not justifying it anyway. Obviously, a moral evil. But to say that the United States is uniquely responsible for universal human evils is ignorant.
This is I don't know. Like, as a Black conservative, because I do identify with the conservative values, this is like a conversation that's beating a dead horse. You know, slavery has been in existence since the existence of man. It's been around. It was used as a form of cheap labor. Why are we still talking about it as if it started in North America? And he just broke it all the way down for you, like all the way down, further than I would ever waste my time doing. So shout out to you, because honestly, you just taught me a lot of things that I didn't know. But why blame North America for everything? Like this was the only continent on Earth since the existence of man.
Every human civilization, as far back in human history as we've been able to look, engaged in these activities. And what's unique about the West is that they pioneered the abolition of such things. And we didn't get it right the first time. And that's a tragedy, and it will scar and haunt us forever. And we have an obligation to try to get troubled communities caught up. And I will be having Larry Elder on my show at the end of January, and I'm going to discuss with him strategies for improving communities that have been historically disadvantaged, as well as ways that we can help change the narrative.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus, for hanging out. I actually do appreciate it. I'm not trying to dump on you at all. Yeah, you're absolutely right. America does not have the moral high ground, but turning over the torch of global dominance to a country like China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, North Korea is not going to be the way that we achieve liberal and progressive values worldwide. Guys, we are out of time. Thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Revolt. Suni, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon. And thanks everyone for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the show.